not true at all. Those people can mind their own business. And if you have a job, then you have a job. If you don't have a job, it's not because of me. I can assure you of that. Hello everybody, my name is Naya and I'm the Black female engineer. I provide content for new and inspiring software engineers, and today we are going over y'all's questions. I'll be answering questions 10 of y'all had for me about coding bootcamp and jobs and interviews and whatnot. And so yeah, we're gonna get right to it. But please, if you see anything in the background, I just moved, and so things are everywhere. So if you see something in the background, just mind your business. But no, let's get into it. So the first question comes from Jordan Thomas. I'm gonna be looking down at my laptop, and Jordan Thomas asks, as someone who is currently enrolled in Flatiron, I'm just curious, what was the hardest concept for you to grasp? Something that you may still not have down 100% yet and may have a mild panic attack whenever you are forced to work with it. Mine would definitely be React. It took me a long time for me to feel like I finally grasped it enough, and really it was because of the flow React has in development. It's very powerful, it's great for large teams, and there are so many benefits to it. However, when it came to my brain, it took longer for me to understand that flow of things, and so that did just slow me down a lot. You mentioned here that you're having trouble with JavaScript. JavaScript did trip me up a lot when I was first learning, specifically with dealing with on-click functions and rendering things onto the screen and making things persist. Oh my goodness, that was really my biggest struggle when I was learning JavaScript, just the vanilla JavaScript. And really what I recommend is doing build and burns. That's what I did always till Sunday. I would look up the lectures that my instructors posted, and you said you're in Flatiron School. I imagine your instructors post the lectures they do or the recordings, and I would look at them and build along, and then I would demolish it all down and then try again without looking at anything, see how far I got. And really this would help me see really what part of my struggle, like why I'm struggling with things and what part of the things I'm struggling with. Rather than saying, oh, JavaScript is hard, being able to say, oh, it's hard for me to render things properly onto a page. And because that was the part that I would always stop at. And so that's something I really recommend, and hopefully this helps. The next question comes from Erin Nostredna, and they ask, you posted a video a few weeks ago calling out the interview process for asking very technical and very advanced questions to candidates seeking entry-level developer positions. Why do you think this happens? I personally think that it happens because large companies like the FANG companies, like the Facebooks, the Googles, they had created this technical interview that's so advanced, so large, because their companies are so advanced and so large, and so they created that. But I feel like it ended up trickling down to now mid-sized companies and small companies, because it became this, I don't even know, it became this like show of like macho-ness and this show of advancement and wow, we're so great and let's see if we can get past this level. And so that was kind of the gatekeeping mechanism that these top companies had. And so now mid-sized and small companies, I feel like wanted that same oomph to them, that same type of exclusivity that those companies had. And so they start adopting more difficult technical interview processes as well. In your question here, you mentioned that you think it's because they want to hire a more advanced person for entry-level roles. That way they have more of like a mid-level person, but paying them a very beginner salary. That's a really good thought. I'm sure it happens, but I don't imagine that's the reason why widespread that these companies are giving really hard technical interviews, because there's no shortage of developer roles in this country, especially now. There's no shortage, and they are willing to pay top dollar for them. And so if you're a developer who ends up in a role like this where they're paying you nothing to employ these manager type roles, even though you're an entry level, well, you would just leave. You know what I mean? You would just leave, and then the company is back to recruiting. And recruiting is not cheap, y'all. Recruiting is expensive. And so I don't imagine that's the overarching reason, just because there's so many jobs out there that will pay you the fair wage, that the company at the end of it would be the losers of the situation, not the developer, not the worker. And so I can't imagine that that's the overarching reason. And I can't imagine my reason is the overarching reason either, to be completely like, this is just my thought process. A study came out showing that if you gave these FANG interviewers the problem that they're giving you, they too would not be able to solve it without hard preparation beforehand. Now, I'm not saying don't prepare. I'm not saying don't prepare, but just to give you some minds, like just to give you some insight into the whole interviewing and show you how hard it is, where even if you worked there and were on these teams and were on these projects, you still wouldn't be able to solve these problems without months and months of preparation. And so I definitely believe the technical interview process really needs a reboot and a revamp. More and more companies have kind of gone away with this, because at the end of the day, I can teach you how to write an if statement, but I can't teach you to be a person I want to work with, to be a good employee, to be a person that contributes positively to this, workspace. And so more and more companies are giving way, and just not paying too much mind to technical interviews now. But no, it is not. No, no, no. Next question comes from Gigi, who asks, I looked up grants to attend boot camps and only found limited choices. Like Flatiron, only 2 states offer grants for women. I would love you to talk more on how to get grants. So that's interesting that when you looked up grants from Flatiron, only 2 states showed up. And I imagine you mentioned that because you know that I got a grant to attend Flatiron. I received, I think it was a $3,000 grant last year to attend Flatiron School. I did not know this was not a widespread grant, and it was only available in a few campuses. However, Flatiron now just launched a campaign where they are offering the Women Take Tech grants. And so it's available for anyone identifying as a woman looking to get into Flatiron for either software engineering or data analysis, or they have so much, y'all. They have cybersecurity. They have, now I'm trying to go off memory. They have cybersecurity. They have UX UI development. They have so many options. The grant is for up to $3,000. And so hopefully now, I know you wrote this question before the campaign launched, and so hopefully with that, you can get some ease and whatnot. I'll provide a link in my description box below so that you can go straight to learn more about the campaign and the grant. And really all you would do is apply. You then will get your voice that you want to receive that grant. You want some money to get you through this, because y'all, it is not cheap. It is not cheap. So hopefully that helps you out. But in general, I highly recommend just Googling in general, seeing, okay, what companies, what organizations are willing to sponsor me to go through Coding Bootcamp, searching, Coding Bootcamp grants for women, Coding Bootcamp sponsorships for people of color, for women of color, for the LGBTQ community. Sometimes a little bit more research is needed to really find the right grants and sponsorships and scholarships for you, but hopefully some weight is taken off your shoulder when you go to the description box, go see my link, and you get to learn about the grant they're currently offering nationwide. Next question is from Michelle Weston, who asks, did Flatiron offer you any assistance finding your first job? Do they help you get interviews? So I'm going to answer the question in 2 parts. So Flatiron definitely helps you in your getting a job journey. After you complete your 15 weeks of learning, you then are moved on to the more career-minded group. They have a whole career section, division. I can't think of the correct term, but they have people whose job it is to be your counselor and help you get to that job. It's not just your instructor giving you advice after hours. Like, no, it's a legit division that you get to have weekly meetings and go through tech mock interviews, go through behavioral mock interviews. They review your resume and all of these different checklist items. They really do so much to help. However, with me, if you are familiar with my journey, I started applying to jobs a solid 6 weeks after starting coding bootcamp. And so by the time I graduated and was moved to the career division of things, I already was like almost at my third interview for some positions. So, and then I believe about a week or 2 weeks later, I had signed on an offer. So they didn't help me because they didn't have the opportunity to help me. I had already been like, no, this is the way I am doing this, 1, 2, 3, and I was able to get a job. I was able to actually get my first job offer on my graduation day. And so, no, they didn't help me because I didn't give them the chance to. However, they have a whole division, like I said, aimed at helping you. And one reason I chose Flatiron, this is important to note, is because they have such a robust partnerships with other companies, where if you tell them I'm looking for front-end developer roles at a mid-sized company, they'll be able to steer you in some type of direction and hopefully even connect you with those people, or be able to now, when they hear of a job opening up or a position opening up, they will contact you. I remember my counselor would email me directly like, yo, you said you wanted X, Y, and Z. Well, here you go. And then I responded, sorry, girl, I forgot to tell you I got a job. But they do that. And so that's something that I love with Flatiron, and what ultimately made the decision for me, because learning how to code is great, but what good is it if you don't get a job afterwards? And so yes, they definitely do help, and they really, really put the time in for you. Next question comes from Chai N, who asks, do you network within your field? If so, how? What is your favorite way of networking? Has it ever helped you land a job? So I'm quite an introvert. I'm quite the introvert. And so there have been many opportunities for me to network with like Slack groups and different channels, and happy hours and virtual happy hours, because this whole parent teacher conference is still among us. And so there are opportunities to, and it's highly recommended. I personally have been slacking in this. I plan to get better. I'll take this question as a sign for me to do better. But I highly recommend networking to get jobs in general. What I did when I was looking for a job was, every time I found a job that I liked, I would go on LinkedIn and find someone in that company to talk to, and I would just do a cold call, basically, where I would just blindly message them, ask for a few minutes of their time, and we would just talk about the position, and I would ask them questions. And so that was my way of networking, but that was when I was looking for a job. And it's great to network when you don't need a job, because when you do need a job, you've already formed these robust connections with the people around you, with the people in your field. Because people can see right through it when you're just networking because you need your bills paid. Like, people can see through that, and I'm not saying they'd be less willing to help, but it's just less fun, because it's like, okay, well, this person just dip after they get the job. And so it's better to network when you don't need it. That way, when you do need it, you have it. You have those relationships. And so, no, I highly recommend Slack channels. I remember my city had like a dev community for that city, and so look those up. Also, Facebook groups are fantastic. Look up, software developer in Minneapolis or wherever you are, or people of color in tech or things like that, and see what Facebook groups you can join, and be active. Ask for one-on-one meetings, ask for advice and help, and for people to just join calls. And whenever you have the opportunity to join a call or join a virtual happy hour or go to a conference, really, really take that opportunity, because a person's network, especially in this field, can really be everything. Chai N, you also ask, if you could choose another area or field of tech, which one would you choose for a career? I personally would choose AI. I think that it is such an interesting tech realm, And when we look at the history of AI, it's very much been dominated by one type of person, one type of developer. And so I think it would be great to have a voice in that, because when there's not a large pool of diverse mindsets going into something, problems arise, y'all. You can see that. A little bit ago, I actually read a study that showed how self-driving cars are less likely to identify people of color in the streets. A car cannot identify me. Not cannot, but is less, it's harder for it to identify. That is a problem. That's a life or death problem. Sometimes people can see diversity in the workplace, diversity in tech as like, oh, because it's like the right thing to do, and oh, it's because like we're trying to be good people. Like, no, it's because it can create life or death situations having diversity in the workplace. Because if we had a person of color part of these decisions, part of these different things, then they would think about that. They would, I would think that they would say, you know what would be nice? If the car saw me walking down the street so it didn't hit me. I think that, yeah. So that's what I have to say about that. If you'd like to know more about this, I highly recommend watching Coded Bias on Netflix. It's an amazing movie that really goes into this topic, going into the studies that have been done and really the widespread implications of a lack of diversity in the AI realm. And so I really recommend that. But no, that's really why I would be a part of it, to kind of also just fix it from the inside, you know, being this, you know, like Trojan horse, just going in and then like, you know, let's fix this. And so yeah, that definitely would be the field I would be in. I am Desmarie asks, what are the top 3 things to do before entering coding bootcamp? One is to identify each and every stressor in your life, no matter how big, no matter how small. Is it your job? Is it your man's? Is it your parents? Is it your child crying in the background? Identify every single stressor in your life and then figure out a solution for each of them. Is it your job? Okay, can you work for the next X amount of months, really save up, and then quit so that when you get to coding bootcamp, you can just focus on coding bootcamp? Is it your baby? Can you talk to your partner and or your family members and ask, okay, from these hours to these hours, can you be the sole caretaker so that I can focus on my education? If it's your man's, can you break up with them? Can you break up with them? I mean, like, I'm half kidding, but truly that is also an important consideration. I think many of us can attest to the the damage that being in a relationship with a person who is not supportive of you and your goals, and who only adds stress even in the best of times, how that that's not the best place to be in, no matter what. And so now thinking about your future goals and coding bootcamp and everything, maybe it's time to split paths. I don't know. But no, truly, seriously see what stressors you have in your life, literally, no matter how big, no matter how small, and formulate a plan to resolve each of them. So that's number 1, because with coding bootcamp, it's really stressful. Like, I had, like, the things I did to make sure that I could succeed and get a job after coding bootcamp and have the most seamless transition possible. And still, it wasn't a seamless transition. Still, it's hard and it's intense and it's so emotional. But I moved in with my parents so that I wouldn't have to worry about bills or feeding myself or rent. I reached out to my friends saying, hey, for the next like 3 to 4 months, you may not hear from me. And so, like, please don't take it personally, but I am in the zone, so please, like, I'm sorry. And so I truly took that seriously. And so I'm saying, like, really take that seriously, write that list, and figure out plans for resolution for each of them. So that's number 1. That's the biggest thing for me. To be honest, once you have this, I think you're in a pretty good spot. I can't even, can I think of two more things? Two, contact your friends and family. Tell them the journey you're about to embark on, and that you would like their support, and thanking them for, the future support that they'll be giving you. And three, Three, establish a solid LinkedIn account. That way you're not doing it while you're at bootcamp, because while you're at bootcamp you want to keep updating your status and your projects on LinkedIn, because so many people can see that. And LinkedIn, like, sure, maybe none of your connections are developers, but their connections might be, and their connections might be. And so it's a great way to like get your projects and portfolio out there, and for more people to see that no, you're serious about this, and seeing ways to assist you on that path. And so yes, make your list, contact friends and family, and create a robust LinkedIn account so that once you do start, you post regularly about the projects you've built, and just keeping people updated on your journey, so that when you do start looking for a job, then there's this, because recruiters look at LinkedIn also, not just GitHub, not just your resume, they also look at LinkedIn. And so when you do start looking for a job, they go to your LinkedIn and see all the things you've already done, or people connect with you based on you wanting to be in this field. You also ask, explain some of the tickets or requests you would have to do at your job. Really, tickets came down to two things: bug fixes and enhancing the current apps. And correct me if I'm wrong, I imagine that's what most tickets would be for any developer, outside of the, oh, do this type of managerial task. If we're talking tech focused, I imagine they would all be bug fixes or enhancements. Bug fixes, so hey, when people try to add things to their shopping cart, the number that appears on the shopping cart isn't the right number of things that are actually in their cart. And so bug fixes, or saying, hey, let's start adding this type of carousel banner to the home page that displays 5 products at a time, and I want it done by Monday. And so yeah, enhancements or bug fixes. And these two examples are examples of tickets I actually did go through when I was working in Commerce Cloud development. Now, however, I'm in a whole new job. I actually just finished day 2 of orientation, and I'm actually filming the day I'm going to be posting this. And so it really is day 2 of orientation for me. And so soon I'll be sharing more about the tickets I experience and my work day and what I do. And so that answer will change soon. But the overarching, bug fixes and enhancements. Okay, so next question comes from @mz_Tommy, who asked, before landing a job, how much knowledge of programming do I need to have? That's a hard question. What I will say is I did not have any programming experience before coding bootcamp. I had self-taught for about a month and a half to 2 months, and I was hired right at the end of my coding bootcamp. And so in total, it was about 6 months of learning, both self-taught and in coding bootcamp, 6 months total that I was learning before I got hired. And so I will say coding bootcamp really did provide me with all the skills necessary to at least get a junior level position. To get a better understanding of what skills you need if you aren't looking to go to a coding bootcamp and are just trying to be self-taught, I highly recommend looking up junior developer positions and taking note of the skill sets and requirements that are listed on each of the different job postings, and then try to see if you see some type of pattern in each of them. And that is a good way to know what's expected for you to learn. And switch up the wording. Say, junior developer, junior software engineer, front-end developer, back-end developer, full-stack developer, entry-level full-stack developer. Things like that. Switch up the wording, because sometimes different things pop up for different things, even though it's really the same title. So switch it up and see if you can see any type of pattern. Next comes from, I think you pronounce it Achilles, who asked, how perfect should a portfolio project be? I do go over some of this in my previous videos where I go over the 5 portfolio projects to have. And also I go over my specific portfolio projects, the ones I had on my resume to get to my job. And so I highly recommend you look at those two. But overall, if they have pretty, good CRUD functionalities, I think that's great. CRUD stands for create, read, update, delete. So if it's a blog app, can a person create a new blog? Can a person read something that's already been posted? Can a person update a previous posting, and can they delete a posting they had? The blog example is really the best example for the CRUD functionalities, but if you think about things like Instagram, you can create a post, you can read other people's posts, you can update on your current posting, like edit it, and you can delete photos and things like that. And so, yeah, do they have basic CRUD functionalities? If they do, then you're in a pretty great spot, specifically for junior level / entry level positions. But I highly recommend you check out those 2 videos. I'll link them below and above so that you can, easily look at them. But overall, it doesn't need to be perfect, but you want it to have those functionalities, and you also want it to be pretty. I know a lot of people kind of put CSS to the wayside because they're like, oh, it's not important, it's not actual development and whatnot. And well, maybe it's not, super applicable to the jobs you want, but at the end of the day, when people are looking at your portfolio, it sucks, but we humans, we judge books by their cover. The whole reason don't judge a book by its cover is a saying is because people do it. You know what I mean? People have a problem with that. And so you want to make sure styling isn't the reason that people aren't bringing you in for interviews, because the styling threw them off so much that they didn't even bother with the rest of the app. And so just make sure things are like packaged nicely, but don't focus too much on the packaging where functionalities and features aren't there, because it looks pretty but it does nothing. And so it's nice to have a good balance. At Rambling Mind Show asks, what is one thing that you've always wanted to do that you can finally do? I imagine you mean like because of my new career. And for me, one thing that I can finally do, to me, it's financial security. I know that's maybe basic, but it's a big thing for me growing up. For people who have known me growing up, that was somewhat of a struggle, or a fear, I think is the better word, the lack thereof. And so being able to be in a position where I'm like, wow, I'm in a new apartment and I just bought my first car and I am planning trips and vacations. That's something I truly don't take for granted, or I try not to take for granted at all, because it really means a lot to me. And so that is a big one for me. I try not to cry, but that's truly a big one for me. And so I'm really excited to see how things develop for me as the days, weeks, months, and years go on. And then last question comes from Ebony Nelson. And girl, okay, there's a couple questions here. So I'm gonna try to get through them all. But your first question is the market desperate for developers right now, or is it flooded with developers? Quick and easy answer, yes, they need developers. The market is not flooded with developers. I know for me, when I was thinking about quitting Bootcamp, that was a fear of mine, that people keep saying that quitting Bootcamp grads are just diluting the market and all of this. It is not true at all. Those people can mind their own business. And if you have a job, then you have a job. If you don't have a job, it's not because of me. I can assure you of that. And so no, don't. If that's the reason why you ask, then no, don't give into this at all. The market is not flooded with developers. 2020 especially made the market skyrocket with developers. I actually wrote it down. Indeed reported that there was a growth in software developer roles of 22%, where other roles were at a mere 4%. And so, no, they need developers. 2020 really made companies invest more in technologies that would allow people to do things like work from home, or consumers to experience products from home and all that jazz. And so with this big need now for software and good technology, so many developers are needed now more than ever. So no, like, get it, girl. Like, don't think that you won't have a job because there's just all of these developers and whatnot. No, don't think that at all. Your next question is, when you're applying for jobs, did you apply for jobs that had a degree requirement and 5 to 10 years of experience? I'm asking because I was looking for jobs this morning and I put myself in a box looking for entry-level positions, and there were only 25 that were entry level. So I applied entry level, yes, but I also applied to jobs that would say like 1 to 3 years of experience or 2 to 3 years of experience, especially if I saw that the skills and qualifications noted, other than the years of experience, matched my skill sets. I think that people, especially women, often disqualify themselves before anyone else gets the chance to. I saw this other stat that was like, and I don't remember the specific numbers, the specific percentages, so don't quote me on them. But the idea was that men will apply to a job when they fit, let's say, 50% of the skill sets noted in the posting, while women will apply to a job when they fit 80 or more percent of the skill sets noted. And so, like, come on, no, no. And so at the end of the day, I will learn. And so if I am lucky enough to get an interview for a job that required more experience than I have, I will not shy away from that topic. I'll say, look, I don't have experience in MongoDB, but I'm so excited to learn. Look at how much I was able to learn in such a short amount of time. I am even more eager to learn this with you all. And so, no, at the end of the day, like I said, they can teach you, SQL and MongoDB and if statements. They can't teach you to be a good person and to be a hard worker. And so, no, don't let those qualifications trip you up from applying. At least apply. At least apply. But what I will say is I did stop at the 3-year mark. Whenever I asked for more than 3 years, that's when I would kind of cut it. And so yeah, focus more on the skill sets needed. And if you see that they match yours really well, don't only apply, but make sure your resume very clearly shows those skill sets so that when they do go through it, they see that, oh, okay, so they don't have as many years of experience we want, but look at all of the technologies and all of the qualifications they have as noted in their resume. You also ask, which websites did you use looking for jobs? I typically used like just google.com. I would say junior software engineer, front-end developer, back-end developer, full stack, and I would filter out accordingly based on the things I wanted, because when you do look at through Google itself, basically its own kind of portal pops up and you can filter out based on the things you want. Do you want it to be in Milwaukee, to be full-time, to be part-time, etc.? And so that's mostly what I did. But what I also did was I did make a list of about 20 companies that I really love and would want to work for. And so after I made that list, I went on the company's actual pages and went onto their career page and looked up positions that I might qualify for. And so I did the two things. I hear Indeed is great for applying to jobs. I never use Indeed, but I do have friends and family members that do, and they really like Indeed as well. They say it's very easy, and so I recommend checking that out as well. And then your last question is, do you think it's better to finish your coding bootcamp before applying to jobs, or is it better to wait until after bootcamp is done? I personally think it is better to start applying before bootcamp is over, as long as you have everything adequately prepared, like your resume, your LinkedIn, your GitHub, all of those things. Because when you apply, there's like a solid 2 to 6 weeks that you just don't hear anything back, even if you get an interview. There's solid weeks that you're just sitting there twiddling your thumbs. And so why, in my mind, why would you wait until the end of boot camp to experience that wait? You know what I mean? I would rather apply before I end boot camp, and then now for those 2 to 4 to 6 weeks, I'm still going through boot camp, I'm still applying to jobs, and then by the time boot camp is over, hopefully by then I start hearing back about interviews and things like that. I did say that I did start applying about 6 weeks after my boot camp started. I don't know if I would do this again. What I will say is, if you do that, make sure you're not targeting companies that are your like dream job, because odds are you're very new to this. I was very new to this, and so I didn't even really know what the lay of the land was. And so it's better to, if you do apply way early like that, to do companies that you kind of wouldn't really cry you to bed at night if you didn't hear back from, and just to get that practice in of filling out the applications and interviewing and talking with people and networking and whatnot. But in general, I think it is great to maybe start applying a couple of weeks at least before your boot camp ends. That way, yeah, when your boot camp ends, you're not just there waiting for the jobs you just applied to. But there we go, everybody. Our Q&A session is over. Thank you so much to everyone who reached out, who asked me questions on Instagram, on YouTube. Make sure you do follow me on Instagram because I will sometimes answer questions just like on the fly there. And so my Instagram handle is at the Black Female Engineer. Make sure you follow me. Make sure you like this video and subscribe if you liked it. But thank you so much. I'm so excited to share more things with you soon. I told you it's Day 2 of orientation just ended, and so I'm pumped for what's about to be shared and whatnot. But no, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all later. Bye!